Hello, 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 everyone. This is Dr. Garrett Smith of nutritiondetective.com, and we are here with another exciting live stream. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Matt Stone as a guest today. Yes, we're going to be chatting with him. Before I get Matt to talk about his background and what he's done, it's similar in many ways to mine, but I wanted to first say that I will forever be grateful for Matt Stone bringing vitamin A toxicity to my attention. He actually very specifically did it, and it just evolved from there. And I'm assuming, Matt, you've probably been doing this longer than I have. In September, I'll be 7 years.
Yeah, I think I started probably May the same year.
Okay, yeah. So you got like 6 months on me or something, or 5.
Yeah. I'm the elder statesman. Yeah.
So we've both been doing this, and I remember Matt made a Facebook post first that I saw, and Matt's website used to be 180DegreeHealth.com, and it was a really great website. Many of you are probably here because you found me through Matt. So those of you who have stuck with me through all this time, I really appreciate that. And then, so he made a Facebook post. I saw it. I kind of went, I don't know if this is just another fad or whatever. So I just decided I was going to let it marinate, which is what I do with new ideas. I don't outright throw them away. I'm like, if I see it again, actually, that was what I told myself. If I see this again, I'll look into it. And then Matt wrote his it was popular among my group blog post. I forget what it was called, but he was
Vitamin or Villain.
Vitamin or Villain. And one of the key things that he hit on, the logic thing that hit me really hard, was he said, well, why aren't all these muscle meat carnivores out there dying of scurvy? And that took me aback, and I went, wait, why aren't they? And so it was the logic and other stuff that he presented in the article that really got me going on looking into it. Let me see that I got the right speakers. Yeah, that's right. Okay. So anyway, Matt, tell us about your background in health, and go as far back as you'd like, and tell us all the things you've tried and all the stuff and where you are at now.
Well, I think a lot of us share a similar story, right? We take an interest in health either because we're just naturally interested in it, or a family member is sick, or we're sick, and we immediately just gravitate to everything that we've been kind of inundated with since birth, which is, kind of a vegetarianish diet. So I started off, pretty much lax vegetarian. I did that for like 7 years, starting in my early 20s. And that really didn't do anything for me in particular. And, being kind of a natural perfectionist and overachiever, I really wanted to find a way to kind of up the ante on that. And so I moved to Hawaii. I was having asthma problems at the time, and I noticed breathing that clean Hawaiian air, my lungs were a lot clearer. So I was so dedicated to health that I moved to the place where I knew my breathing was better. And when I got there, I started doing, a lot of cleansing. I did Donna Gates's famous body ecology diet, where pretty much half of my muscle mass just left my body in a matter of weeks. And, I worked at actually 2 health food stores at the time, right? I was working at a farmer's market, and then I was working at GNC, debatable whether or not that's a health food store, but I was super interested in that, and that's kind of what I poured everything into. I was starting a blog right about that time, where I was just reading a ton of books just constantly. I'd never been a big reader. I wasn't really the best student because it takes a lot to get me interested in something. Once I'm interested in something, I'm fully locked in. So, I just knew it was for me. Long about late 2006, it's all I thought about. It's all I read about. It's all I talked about. And blogging, which had just come along, was the perfect new outlet. You could write articles, publish them in 2 seconds. There's no gatekeeper. and anybody in the world can stumble upon it. And you can engage with people about your favorite subject in the comments, which I did. I think I've left over 6,000 comments at 180 Degree Health. And, you know, it just kind of evolved from there. And I kept trying new things. I would encounter new information. You know, we kind of weave through different fads. I mean, naturally, I think everybody's kind of done that, right? Once you try the vegetarian thing, it doesn't work so well. You start hearing all this chirping going on about either low carb or keto or carnivore or zero carb, it was, as it was called at the time, or, you know, Weston A. Price Foundation kind of stuff, you know, eating some kind of ancestral diet. You think, oh, this makes a lot of sense. And you go off on that tangent for a while until, you know, you realize it's not working out, and you bounce around and you continue to try to explore. You pay attention to how each different thing you try affects your body, and you learn as you go. And most of the lessons were painful ones. Most of the lessons were how not to do it. And I'm just a natural kind of like a curious person. And so lots of experiments. For example, one of the last things I did was I intentionally gained as much weight as I possibly could, you know? And so I gained like 50 pounds in a year, 30 pounds in 3 months, and then gained another 20 in that year. I really wanted to figure out this obesity thing. You know, how can we lose weight without slowing down the metabolism, increasing our appetite and our cravings, et cetera, et cetera. Still haven't figured that one out, by the way, but no one really has. To a reliable degree. I mean, there's a few outliers who have solved their own personal weight riddle, I think, but the vast majority, I mean, there's still no follow this prescription and you're going to get these results kind of thing out there. The best thing the internet has to offer nowadays was recently the sugar diet, which has now been disbanded. And now it's just a super low fat diet, which, you know, we're going right back to the 80s now with that diet fad. And yeah, so anyway, we just, like Garrett, I've explored a lot. I've read a lot, hundreds of books, and communicated with a lot of the top people in this industry as well. 6,000 comments back and forth. Chat GPT, I'm trying my best not to spend all day in there. I'm not as interested in health related stuff anymore, but if I was, you know, I pretty much live in there, I think, asking questions. And so, yeah, I'm just a curious person and mostly motivated by solving my own personal health riddles, which is asthma and allergies. And when I stumbled across the low A thing, I was coming from a place of real desperation. My asthma was so severe that it was starting to become like life-threatening level. If I took medication such as albuterol or some other kind of inhaler, it would give me upper respiratory infections. So I would have like upper respiratory infection, like coughing up a bunch of phlegm, but I would have wheezing relief for a few days. And then once the wheezing came back, it came back worse than it was before. And so it was getting worse and worse and progressing in a really negative, you know, trajectory. And I was starting to get desperate. So one thing I knew that I could do to keep from producing mucus was eat only fruit. Mm-hmm. I've done that before. I'd experienced the complete like lack of mucus from doing that. And so I would eat only fruit and my asthma would clear up. No asthma when there's no mucus. And so I was doing okay, but after about a week, I would just completely feel like I was dying, right? Like literally, like I think I might die today. I just had no energy, no nothing. I felt so dizzy. I mean, anybody who's tried to eat nothing but fruit has probably experienced this. It's pretty horrendous. And so then I would eat some normal food and then all the asthma would just come back instantly. It would be vicious. And so I got desperate enough to do my second round of a carnivore diet. The first one I did back in December of 2008. Back when it was starting to trend, and there was this guy, Charles Washington, doing Zio, Zero In on Health was his brand. And it was very small and very underground at the time. And I did 30 days of that, had a miserable experience doing that. And so I didn't want to go back to doing that. And I've been communicating with people for years about how damaging low carb diets are for your metabolism, your glucose metabolism, your everything. certainly athletic performance and so on and so forth. And so I was really desperate, and I did full carnivore where I ate nothing but beef. And that was about the time I started hearing about vitamin A and Grant. And fortunately, I only stuck to that for maybe 40 days or so. My gallbladder is still mad at me for that. And I mean, vicious gallbladder issues from eating all that fat. But that expanded my menu tremendously. And I found that, yes, if I stick to low A foods, I don't have asthma. And as soon as I eat something with vitamin A in it, which I started to figure out very quickly what has vitamin A in it, I would get asthma. I would start having, coughing and mucus production in my lungs and some wheezing. And so on it went from there. But that's a pretty good, stopping point to catch up and recap. But that's kind of my journey so far. We're talking 2018. So yeah, and I've been doing it ever since because I have to. I mean, if I could eat foods with vitamin A in them and not have asthma, I would do it. I had pretty much given up on trying to eat the perfect diet. I just wanted to go away and just kind of eat like a normal person. And eating like a normal person made me really sick. And I just have to eat this way. And fortunately, over time, I got to like it, and it's more sustainable now. And my health has improved so much that I would never turn my back on it. And I'm super thankful for it. I mean, I'm like a totally different person now compared to where I was 7 years ago. I was in a pretty dark place in many respects, beyond just the asthma. So,
yeah, I remember I think it was on your blog or somewhere or maybe it was an email to me, and you said, you're like, I could practically eat Skittles and my asthma would stay away. But if you ate too much vitamin A, like, it came crushing back. Like, so you could eat junk food that didn't have vitamin A in it, but if you ate crap or vitamin A food, it would come back like really bad. And you'd have to be like, you had to be good for like 3 days straight before you could get it under control again or something like that, right?
Yeah. And it's now that I'm older and I live indoors in the wintertime, I was living in Florida, which is a lot easier on my asthma. I'm out in Wyoming now, where it was like 20 below multiple days in February. And that cold, dry air doesn't treat me very well. The altitude makes it harder. So that's kind of up the ante. And since then, I also live with a dog, which I was deathly allergic to a dog, and I couldn't have dogs. And we found after getting a dog that actually was okay as long as I was very strict. And so now if I go on some vitamin A binge, my most recent was Thanksgiving of last year, it could take me a couple weeks to get my lungs clear. So I don't really mess around with it anymore. For the first 6 years, I was kind of going on like a eat whatever you want binge 1 day a week, roughly. And just eating anything, pizza and cheeseburgers and lots of tomatoes and whatever, drinking orange juice, some of my favorites, I would go and just pig out on those. Lots of lobster, crab, shrimp, plenty of like really, really big red lobster expenses back during those years. But now I don't really mess around with that anymore. And I've been really strict since Thanksgiving, and really, really low. And it's really amazing, especially now with a dog. I'm like the best like vitamin A barometer in the world. Because if I eat anything with too much vitamin A, that dog will walk past me and brush up against my leg, and I'll just start itching like crazy. And that's when I'm like, oops, I ate something I shouldn't have.
You have violated the rules.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm actually a pretty good guinea pig for this at this point, because it's incredibly consistent. The quantity I eat is very significant. If I go out and have a couple thousand IUs, I'm going to have a really bad time. If I go out and have 100 IUs and that's it, and that's my only, transgression for the week, I'm fine. It's no big deal. I can recover from that. Okay. Maybe my ears get a little itchy. from something like that. I know you've talked about the ears a lot. I mean, I read this stuff. I'm like, yeah, I get all this wet ear. What is that? Super like psoriasis-y ears when I'm not really strict as well. Anyway, it's been awesome. And yeah, it's great. I get reminded every time I eat something with vitamin A that this is actually legit. Because it still seems weird that this is, this is kind of where we're at. And this seems to be the path for me. Eating unlimited Skittles but can't touch a tomato. It seems bizarre, but that's kind of where I'm at.
I have a theory on the dog thing. I don't know if you've heard me talk about it, but I think it's a possibility. So you seem to have a threshold of vitamin A that will cause the asthma allergies to kick in, right? There's some threshold.
Yeah.
So the theory that I have is dander, right? So a dog is going to.
Oh yeah, has vitamin A in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're getting rid of it through their skin, and then it comes off, and you're breathing it in. And so if you're just having the dog dander, you may not be over a threshold, or it may not be coming in a route that's really a problem for you. But once you add the foods and you cross the threshold, then the dander just aggravates the whole thing, and it's going right in your mucous membranes to trigger the immune system. Yeah. So, I wanted to ask you, with those diets you did before you knew about low vitamin A, were there any particular diets that you tried or health approaches that seemed like that were very high in vitamin A that maybe triggered a lot of your stuff, or that you had a honeymoon at the start and then things all kind of crashed the longer you were on it? Anything like that?
Yeah. I mean, they were all really high in vitamin A. And I go back to my childhood where I suffered with horrible asthma, horrible allergies. I missed 20 days of school a year, had weight problems. I had, these thick Coke bottle glasses by the time I was 8. I had horrible dental problems. And I look at my typical breakfast as a child, and it was breakfast cereal, but I was health conscious even back then. So I was eating Total and Just Right as an 8-year-old and stuff like that because it had 100% RDA on the spine. And so I'm eating, and you don't just pour a tiny little bowl. I eat cereal now that doesn't have any vitamin A added to it, but I mean, I'm eating three portions every time I sit down and eat a bowl of cereal. So this is probably already putting an 8-year-old way over 100% of his daily intake of vitamin A because of the vitamin A palmitate in there. And then in my health conscious family, we've got 2% milk, which is fortified with vitamin A palmitate. And vitamin A palmitate is just particularly nasty because it absorbs even better than regular vitamin A, right? And then I'm having Flintstones vitamins. My favorite beverage, I didn't grow up drinking soda. I grew up drinking orange juice, right? After a baseball game, I always go get my quart of orange juice and drink a quart of orange juice, right? Super high in vitamin A. And then the most popular foods, I grew up in the pizza era, right? Where pizza's just everywhere. Everything's got tomato sauce on it. All the condiments are salsa, ketchup, hot sauce, eating so much like lasagna, pizza, spaghetti, etc. And this is like a normal day. And then I look back at the total vitamin A load of something like that. It's a lot. It's way too much for an adult, but for like an 8-year-old kid is insane. But I did hit at 12, I did hit a growth spurt. And just like Grant talked about, all my health problems subsided. So you want to talk honeymoons? The greatest honeymoon I had was from 12 to 16, which supposedly coincides with this huge growth spurt in your liver during that time span. Mm-hmm. I didn't have allergies. I wasn't allergic to pets. I didn't have asthma. I lost all my body fat. I went from a chubby kid to, tall and lean, and everything was great. And then like late 16, early 17, I'm having really bad back problems. I'm having really bad seasonal allergies, like just vicious allergy attacks in the summertime. I start running up the hill behind my house and I'm having exercise-induced asthma. And so on and on it went, and kept getting worse and worse. And yeah, every time it gets worse, you get more motivated. And yeah, I mean, it was bad. My allergies were so bad that one winter, because I was dating a girl who had 2 cats and a dog, I was sleeping in a tent in her backyard at her parents' house and only going indoors to shower. So the epitome of health. I mean, this is me at like 22, 23, supposed to be in the prime of my life. And I'm literally sleeping outside the tent, sub-zero temperatures, to avoid pet dander. And it's insane. I sleep with a dog right by my bed now.
Well, there may be an answer for you. I wanted to read something from the comments. Dagmar, who's a big fan, and she's really helpful in the Love Your Liver program. Let me find. She said, I had 3 cats who were all on a raw muscle meat diet, and people who were allergic to cats had no issues around mine. By the way, the cats lived to be 23, 27, and 30.
Yeah.
So there goes that dander theory. That's like my pollen theory. Like, I mean, pollen's yellowish or orangish, and people are breathing it in, and their body is just get this crap out by tears, by snot, by what, it's just pushing it out, saying, please get rid of this stuff. So anyway,
yeah, I've thought about that, and I've encountered that kind of line of thinking before, that if you feed your dogs differently, you won't be allergic to them anymore. That may be true. I noticed when I did RBTI and I was around Challen's dog, I didn't have as many issues, even though his dog was still eating plenty of vitamin A. But he was on a very different diet than a regular dog, that's for sure. But I'm super allergic to horses and stuff as well. Like, I worked for the Forest Service, and we would load up horses, and I mean, I couldn't go near it. I mean, I would just break out. But anyways, what I was saying is that I did go through a honeymoon period where I didn't have these issues. And, they all came back with a vengeance shortly after I started doing a vegetarian diet. And I lived a couple blocks from the original Wild Oats in Boulder. So I was in a super health foodie environment, and I was eating tons of brightly colored fruits and vegetables. I started having soy milk fortified with a bunch of vitamin A on cereal and stuff like that. I don't think I was super hardcore into juices and things like that, but as I progressed and went farther on, of course, I was doing tons of carrot juice. I was consuming lots of spirulina, chlorella, and stuff like that when I was in Hawaii. I remember I would just sit down and eat like a half a head of cabbage or something like that, just consuming tons and tons of raw produce, tons of freshly squeezed orange juice, mangoes like crazy, just sit down and eat several mangoes. And so I thought I was pretty healthy. I was feeling pretty good doing that. And then flew out to New Jersey to see my ex-girlfriend's family, my girlfriend at the time. And as soon as we got there and there's pets in the house, like, holy cow. I mean, I was like about to need an ER visit. So that was very humbling. I thought I was like Mr. Health. And, that's a lot of times when you do go on a big health kick, most of the benefits you're experiencing can be in your mind, right? You think, oh, I'm laying out in the beach in Maui. I'm super tan. I'm looking, really good, all these things. And, I felt healthy, but as soon as I had any kind of challenge, I failed miserably. And, but yeah, if you go Weston A. Price Foundation, I did an all milk diet where I drank 4 or 5 quarts of whole milk, grass-fed raw milk for a month. And I remember going out and petting a dog at the property that I was staying at during that. And my whole arm just like erupted, and I was wheezing. And outdoors, I'd never been allergic to a dog outdoors, right? It was like, I was allergic to pets when I was like in a house stuck with them overnight with all the windows closed or something, and the house that they live in 24/7. But right. Petting a dog outside for 15 seconds and having, a big allergic attack. And so that was a real eye opener. I thought I was, the healthiest guy ever. I was eating no refined foods, the most nutritious diet you could eat, milk of nothing but raw, organic, grass-fed milk. it was all in California. It was all, you know, Mark or whatever, organic pastures.
Right.
And so that was a disaster. I tried to eat liver, but never was very good at it, but I tried. Put it in smoothies raw. I had a freezer. I would grate it up into the smoothie. That was a lot of fun. Not lots of cod liver oil. I'd probably be dead if I went full Weston A. Price Foundation.
Like the others?
Like the others, I probably would have joined them. You know, I was certainly kind of felt adjacent to that group, and knew many of those people. And I've emailed several people who aren't with us anymore. You know, it's pretty wild. And so anyway, yeah, I've done lots of vitamin A in many forms. And, you know, when I was force feeding myself, trying to gain weight intentionally, it was mostly pizza, 2 cartons of Haagen-Dazs, and as much orange juice as I could drink with that.
Was that before the low vitamin A thing? So that was the last thing you did, right?
Yeah, this is kind of like the last my last stunt that I pulled back in 2013. And that's when I was kind of like, you know, this weight's not coming off. I feel terrible. I started to have horrible fatigue. And I was like, man, I got no business talking to anybody about health anymore. And that's when I moved on to decide to do something else for a living. And but of course, I still am interested. Of course, I still am very interested in my own health riddles. Of course, I'm still very interested about the answers. And if I find the vitamin A thing super fascinating, because if this really is as legitimate as we think it is, then every health conscious person is making their health even worse than if they didn't do anything at all. I mean, they'd be better off just doing nothing than even trying to get healthy. No matter which path you go down, other than just muscle meat only carnivore, every health fad is going to have you eating a ton of vitamin A. If it's paleo, it's going to be sweet potatoes and organ meats. If it's low carb, it's going to be a ton of butter and eggs. If you're a bodybuilder, it's going to be also a ton of eggs and tons of, you know, broccoli and green vegetables and things.
They
like
fortify
that.
all the shakes and stuff. You know, they fortify all the supplements.
All the shakes, all the supplements, all the sunscreen, all the cosmetics. It's absolutely in everything. And I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I get really pissed off, man. I'm like, what the hell is this vitamin A palmitate doing in this energy drink? You know, why is there, you know, 2,000 IUs in this bottle of, you know, wannabe Gatorade? I mean, what the hell is that? I almost drank that, and that would have messed me up really bad. And I've isolated this as well, right? One of the most interesting experiences I've had over the last year was I realized I'd written off cereal completely. I hadn't eaten cereal in years and years and years and years, because I was like, it's all got vitamin A palmitate in it. Well, I found that Malto Meal off-brand cereal doesn't have any vitamin A palmitate added to it. And so I'm eating their Lucky Charms knockoff. I'm eating their, you know, Cinnamon Toast Crunch knockoff. I'm eating several of their cereals, not the ones with yellow corn in them, but I'm at least able to eat the wheat and oat and rice-based cereals of theirs. And then I got their Fruity Pebbles knockoff as well, and didn't notice that is the one cereal in their lineup that has vitamin A palmitate added to it. So I'd been eating this cereal for months and not paying much attention, and really enjoying eating cereal. Hey, this is fun. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I'm like coughing up massive amounts of phlegm in the sink. And I'm like, man, this is like I just had like a huge dose of vitamin A or something. Like, this is like what I would expect if I went out and had like Eggs Benedict and a V8. Like, what the hell? Why is this happening? And I didn't put it together until the second time I had it. And I was in bad shape, and I had to do days of fasting. I was on my inhaler for a couple weeks. It was brutal, all from, you know, eating something that's supposed to be put into the cereal for for health enhancement purposes. It's insane. It's insane. And I got so much more to say about it because I've been paying very careful attention to where all this vitamin A is being put into food intentionally, which to me is super egregious. And yeah, even the stuff that they're substituting artificial colors with is like black carrot juice, which
or just straight beta carotene. They're just adding beta carotene as a food color.
Oh, it's insane. It's like 27,000 IUs per 100 grams or something. And I had some candy. I should have stuck with the Skittles, Dr. G, because Mamba uses black carrot juice and other stuff for coloring to be healthy. And it got me, man. So anyway, I'm pretty fed up with all the sneak attacks that I get with vitamin A, which I've had more, I would say, in the last couple of years than I've had the whole journey.
More sneak attacks, you mean?
Yeah, more sneak attacks, because in the past, like I was eating once a week, I was eating vitamin A, and I could kind of get away with it. I might feel kind of crappy the next day, maybe a little phlegm, but it wasn't full on asthma, and maybe my ears would itch, but I can handle some itchy ears. I mean, that's not the end of the world. I mean, lobster.
I mean, to eat pizza, right? Some itchy ears.
Yeah, pizza is worth itching my ears for a couple of days. I mean, I don't care. But now I'm super sensitive. I live in a house with a dog in this high altitude, dry air environment. And the little things that sneak in there, I notice now, and it can mess me up pretty good. And I almost had some bread the other day with vitamin A palmitate in it.
Why don't we do that? Let's go through so we can, since you've really been getting into this and all the sneaky stuff, like let's go through what we both know about food fortification with this. So go over your sneaky things that got you, and then we can go over the things that we actually know that they're fortifying with vitamin A. So I'll let you read.
I'd say the most interesting observations I've made about food fortification is that I've done a lot of research on other countries and what they fortify and the countries that don't fortify. So for example, Japan doesn't have any mandatory food fortification with vitamin A. But in the Philippines, which I know very well because I have a big team of people in the Philippines that work for me for my book cover business, I know that they're having a lot of health struggles. And I know that a lot of them are struggling with their weight. They're not American fat. They're not North American fat. But I remember back like 12 years ago, I brought a lot of attention to the low carbers about this video of men in a Philippine prison doing Michael Jackson's Thriller dance. And there's like 100 of them out there in their orange jumpsuits. And they are all rail thin, right? And the Philippines is not like that anymore. And here's what they fortify with vitamin A in the Philippines, right? Sugar, oil, rice, and wheat. And I can't remember dairy if that's on the list or not, but I mean the percentage of calories in the modern diet, the standard modern diet that come from oil, sugar, flour, and rice, especially in Asia, is like 80% plus probably their calories come from that. And it's all fortified. I mean, it's absolutely insane. You know, I've had somebody that works for me be hospitalized because of asthma. And lots of people struggling with weight problems. And that's just unheard of there. I mean, they were just like Japan 20 years ago. Now they're not. When I went to Nicaragua and Costa Rica, one of the last blog posts I did was, why are Central Americans so fat? I ran into these really obese people all the time. There's no McDonald's around. There's no fast food of any kind. And so why is somebody living out in rural Costa Rica? Why the hell are they 350 pounds? They're more physically active. They're eating their, gallo pinto in the morning, rice and beans. They're having their casados in the afternoon, which is more rice and beans. Why are they fat? They're not doing this on fast food and Doritos and all this stuff. And then I went to Colombia, and everybody's lean and they're eating the same stuff. I mean, they're eating rice, beans, and, corn-based tortillas and stuff like that. So what the hell? Well, Colombia doesn't fortify, and Nicaragua and Costa Rica, they put it in their sugar.
Mm-hmm.
So all the sugary drinks, like I had a homestay when I was in Nicaragua, and I'm having all these awesome homemade sugary drinks like Jamaica, which is basically hibiscus tea, like iced tea with a lot of sugar in it. Little did I know all the sugar I'm consuming the whole time I'm there is full of vitamin A. And this is also before 2018. And when I came home, thinking again that I was feeling pretty healthy while I was gone living in these environments. And then I got back home and that's when my asthma got really bad. So I got back in late 2017 after living in these environments where even more stuff is fortified with vitamin A. And so that's kind of interesting as well. But as far as sneaky stuff in the US diet, I mean, obviously any kind of low fat dairy products, I think they're mandated that they have to have vitamin A added to it. Any kind of breakfast foods, from breakfast cereal to Eggo waffles, lots of vitamin A palmitate added to that. And that's pretty tragic. And then, I couldn't believe the sports drink. That was insane. I saw my first loaf of white bread with vitamin A palmitate added to it recently. And so that was crazy. But one thing about me that differentiates me from everyone else, I think, doing this is that I'm not doing it with like a real fixation on eating a perfectly healthy diet, right? I'm eating the standard American diet, like completely just with no vitamin A. And that's probably not the best approach, but it's one that I like because to me, it's not amazing that somebody like Grant got much healthier on a 3-food diet, right? Beans, rice, and beef or bison. When it's so limited, there's so many other things that are eliminated from the diet that it's hard to say that was, the vitamin A was the sole cause of that. But for somebody like me, like I really would love to find something that the everyday average person, if they could just focus on this one thing, what is just focusing on this one thing and fixing this one thing, what kind of mileage can they get out of that?
Right.
So I'm more interested in that. And so I do eat white bread and bagels and breakfast cereal and, some sodas here and there and stuff like that. And I would love to have more fruits and vegetables, but there's not many of them out there that don't bother me.
How do you do with apples? You do okay with apples?
I have a little apple juice sitting next to me. That super ultra filtered apple juice is pretty good.
Okay.
But a whole apple with the peel on it, way too much. That bothers me. If you remove the peel, that helps, but it's still too much for me. I can do, I'm sticking to around 30 IUs a day, which is only 1% of the RDA since Thanksgiving. And I get all that just from a little chicken breast and apple juice.
Wow.
And so there's really nothing else that contains vitamin A that I'm eating on a regular basis, right? I had a little bit of artichoke hearts the other day, which is probably a little too daring for me. It did bother me a little bit. Occasionally I'll have like some chocolate chips that have a little bit of, milk chocolate in them. I'm not allergic to dairy, but I can tolerate a little bit, but it doesn't take much of that, especially like preformed vitamin A that you find in animal products before I'm, having problems. So anyway.
Yeah. Well, Kelsey was on a flight the other day and she sends me a picture of I think it was treetop apple juice, the can of apple. Sorry, my Zoom just went nuts.
Yeah.
The virtual Zoom just went nuts.
That.
She sends me a picture of the like treetop apple juice and it's fortified with vitamin A and vitamin E. And I'm like, why? Like, I mean, I think it's hilarious now that like Gatorade has come full circle and now Gatorade's making Gatorade water. Like it's just what like all these companies are just doing all this crazy stuff. And yeah, as you said, the energy drinks, the protein powders, like everybody's putting it in there. Like they're worried that people are going to be deficient. Now, one of the things I know is that supposedly this is what the government said. The US government said they removed the requirement to label how much vitamin A was in products. Like on the nutrition facts label.
Right.
Well, they got to do it on the supplement facts, but so they removed that requirement because they said vitamin A deficiency is so rare in the US that they didn't feel it was necessary anymore.
Yeah.
And yet they're fortifying everything. And you're going, well, wait, which one is it? Is it that are we all not deficient, or do we need more and we need to pump it into everybody from every direction? So
yeah, they still have dietary cholesterol on that label as if that's some hugely significant nutritional factor that everybody needs to know.
Yeah.
As if that hasn't been debunked a million times. Yeah, I'm super fed up with all kinds of fortification. I don't want all this iron in all the wheat products and cereals and all this other stuff. The apple juice I do drink has got like 100% of your vitamin C per 8 ounces. Well, what if I want to drink 32? That's an awful lot of vitamin C. Do I really want all that? Do I want to perform, an experiment with a really, unnatural level of vitamin C in my diet, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, yeah, I'm definitely fed up with it. And I don't think we're going to see anybody attacking food fortification for a long time. This movement is gaining traction very, very, very slowly. Episode 209 here for Garrett. But yeah, I can't deny it for my own personal health. And I find the research behind it to be super compelling as well. But I've felt that way about a lot of dumb stuff that wasn't true. So that doesn't mean a whole lot. But yeah, it's been an interesting journey so far for sure. And it's been interesting this year being really strict with it for the first time. I feel awesome, man.
Good.
I'm having a much better year this year than I have in a long time. And that has a lot to do with it.
That's funny that you're doing that at the same time, because I kind of recently, I think both of us are, one of the reasons we like each other is we both are not very good at being told what to do.
Yeah.
And I even extended that to, I'm not very good at being told what to do by my own self. And so like, if I'm saying you got to be really strict and really, really strict and don't cheat. And then I start going, you don't tell me what to do. And then I try to rebel. So the contrarian thing, that was one of the definite reasons that I was drawn to your work. And it's funny when you describe your history with health stuff, man, I did the same thing. Like I taught myself how to swallow tablets with Flintstone vitamins. Like I saw my parents swallowing like aspirin once in a while. And I'd be like, I should probably learn that skill. I was a, different kid. And so I'm swallowing those like razor sharp Flintstone tablets whole. And I'm thinking I'm healthy by making my shredded wheat, like the unsweetened shredded wheat. Like I was hardcore, unsweetened shredded wheat with skim milk, of course, and an equal packet sprinkled on the top of it. So I'm taking, NutraSweet, aspartame all over it, and thinking I was super healthy. And then, one of the things I talk about is one of the very first ways I noticed that food affected me, which is going to be similar to you, was I'd be drinking a glass of milk and I wasn't even halfway through the glass of milk before I'd feel the mucus like forming. So, and then like did you ever do the primal diet?
What, with the raw meats, autogenous founder planets?
Yeah.
Dude, I was the milkman for one of his clubs.
We're so similar, dude. I hosted the raw milk co-op at the CrossFit I founded in Phoenix. Like they bring that stuff in and it stunks like rotten milk so bad. The whole place would just stink of rotten milk. And I don't know if you noticed this too, but so we're talking about raw eggs, raw milk, raw meat, raw liver, like raw honey. And so they were making, the milkshakes were good. Don't get me wrong. Like mixing raw eggs and raw milk and raw honey and drinking that's tasty. I'm not going to say it doesn't taste good.
Yeah.
But one thing I noticed was that especially the women in this group would just absolutely balloon up. Like they all got morbidly obese. And I was just sitting there going, how is this happening? Like, how are people telling me that this is good for people? And the women are all like very, very large. And I'm going, this is not, and there was the whole healing pounds thing. Oh, it's healing pounds. And suddenly they're going to come off once you're healthy again. And I kind of was like, I don't know how that works. I haven't seen it work yet. Did you have anything like that?
No, I didn't. My experience is I was like 20, 25, maybe 26, not 27. I don't know. In my 20s still. And I was so interested in raw milk because of everything I'd heard about it. And, in my mind, it was like, the healing elixir, if I could just get my hands on some of this raw milk. And so I was working really hard summertime as a wilderness ranger. And on my days off, I would drive 2 hours to go to this farm, milk cows at 4 o'clock in the morning, help load up the truck. And then I would go deliver milk to all these different places. One of them being, an Autogenous von der Planets inspired co-op. And my experience was that it was really popular with single women in their late 30s. And then I was very popular with the single women in their late 30s. And so I didn't partake of that. That wasn't very interesting to me as a man in my 20s. But anyway, they were an interesting bunch, and there were all types. There were all types that were interested in it. My experience with that was really eye-opening to me is that, I went to Aspen High School, right? I watched one of their graduation ceremonies a few years ago, and there's not an overweight person on that stage, 200 and something people, right? People in the mountains are much healthier, fitter, leaner. They look great, right? And they're very affluent on top of that, which certainly helps with all that. And so I was used to being in Colorado where people are out hiking all the time. People are very vibrant and super lean and fit. And then I went to a Weston A. Price Foundation conference and was like, dude, I was going there like, I'm going to find the healthiest people in the world, man. I can't wait to find my people. This is going to be great. And I get there and everybody just looks like your typical, kind of Midwestern couch potato. And that really damaged my, my whole facade that I had built up in my mind about how this Weston A. Price, we've all kind of been there. I'm sure if you're a health explorer, like there was this chosen one, the Messiah, Weston A. Price, and he went around the world and did all these things, and you get excited to see all the people who are benefiting from this, and they just want to get there and talk about their kids' autism.
Yeah. Or the leaky gut and the gaps and all that stuff.
Exactly. Which is interesting. It definitely could be related to vitamin A.
Oh gosh, the research on young childhood or even in utero exposure to vitamin A and connected to allergies is multiple studies. Yeah. So I did the same thing too. I spoke at the 2010 convention, and I went there thinking I'm going to see all these healthy people. Like, wow, this is going to be crazy. And you know what I saw when I got there was I saw generally either people were really, really thin or heavier than they should be. And I didn't see any really healthy people there. And I was going, what is going on? Either this is the wrong approach, or are all these people like still getting better, or where are the better people? Like where's the endpoint people? And it blew my mind. And I spoke on nightshades when I was there. Little did I know that nightshades would lead to the vitamin A stuff and the vitamin D stuff later. But it was rough. Actually, I wanted to add something that Dagmar added in the chat. She said that's where I know you from, Matt. Autogeneous secret raw milk deliveries.
Awesome.
Small world.
Nice.
But yeah, I with the whole raw milk crew and the raw eggs and all, I'm still waiting. Like anybody who's in their 20s and trying to tell me that like this is the way, I'm just kind of like, give it time. Fill up your liver with vitamin A and maybe you'll figure it out and you'll be back, or maybe you won't and you'll just bounce around because you can't believe that vitamin A is bad for you. And I just let them do what they want to do, you know? So, any other fun experiences with different health groups or health stuff?
Well, I mean, before we leave the Autogenous Vonderplanets thing, like I did eat a whole raw chicken one time. That was fun. I was working as a ranger and I brought a whole raw chicken in my backpack and sat down and ate it for like an hour. And I don't think I made it halfway through. If you ever try to eat a raw chicken, you know, you're in for a lot of jaw work to get that done. But yeah, I mean, it's silly, the stuff that I've been exposed to. And I've been exposed to a lot of people who've done worse, you know, fasting on their own urine for long periods of time. You know, I spent a lot of time in Maui. So, I mean, just doing a little raw milk is I mean, that's easy. That's kid stuff compared to the things that people do in Hawaii in the name of health. I mean, everybody was doing the master cleanse, and everybody who was doing anything that they viewed as unhealthy, they would try to go to like Bikram yoga and like purge their sins.
Sweat it out.
Yeah, which is a whole other story as well. Another health fad that's, you know, become a cult documentary, I love cult documentaries. But yeah, there's cult-like tendencies in all these different groups. And yeah, it's unfortunate, but at the same time, it's all part of our discovery collectively as a human race. I mean, it hasn't been but 100 years or so since we started discovering these things in food called vitamins. Mm-hmm. And we're so far from figuring anything out and really understanding it. And so, yeah, I mean, obviously everybody wants to believe that they're in possession of the truth, that they can help people overcome, to heal the sick. I mean, does anybody not power trip off of being able to heal the sick? And so, yeah, I mean, you put human intentions of wanting to heal and help people with their health, and you combine that with the deep human desires that we have to have secret inside information and know the truth, whereas everybody else doesn't. I mean, that's everybody's got that tendency in them. And, you know, these things are obviously dangerous, but it's all, hey, Christina, that raw chicken was delicious. What are you talking about? Yeah, everybody's got that tendency in them to want to be special and want to help others. And unfortunately, those well-intentioned impulses that we feel can be very dangerous when we start messing around, you know, with health information. So,
yeah. I have a funny story about the Autogenous days. Like my classmates, I don't from medical school, I don't see them much anymore, but when I do still talk to them once in a while. So I brought in a couple times, or I don't know how many times to clinic shifts. I brought in a mason jar where I couldn't bring myself to do the like totally raw chicken. So I got like chicken tenderloins from Trader Joe's, and I cut them up into pieces, and I put them in a mason jar with lemon juice and garlic. Because I was like, if there's anything on this, like I'm gonna kill it. I'm just
like a chicken ceviche, basically. Yeah. I like it.
So I bring that to clinic shift, and people are like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "It's raw chicken." And I'm in my kind of like arrogant Autogenous mode. We all know people who have gotten into that mode. If you've been around that group, but boy, they really go down that like we know everything that everybody else doesn't, and raw is the only way. And I just ate it, and I was kind of like, I know another guy, he had raw chicken, just plain raw chicken once, and he was just like, I was throwing up for hours, and I was like, oh, sorry, like I never had that problem. But yeah, people still bring that up. They're like, so are you still eating raw meat? And I'm like, no. And I still would do, like, I couldn't eat, like, I would get lamb leg steaks. Trader Joe's used to have these great New Zealand lamb leg steaks, and I would just put balsamic vinegar and salt on them. I wasn't going to eat them plain. I just couldn't do that. So a little bit of salt and balsamic vinegar, and I would still eat that today. If I had that, or if I could get that, I would still do that. It was quite good. I did enjoy that. But the whole, like, I was making raw liver smoothies. I've mentioned this a couple of times. I would blend up. I couldn't eat the liver by itself. So I thought, okay, what can I put with this? So I put in
Stupid instincts of mine are keeping me from eating this healthy food.
Right. And yeah, family members are saying, can you get this out of the fridge? This is disgusting. And I'm like, well, whatever. So I'm blending up raw liver and frozen blueberries and a little bit of water to make a smoothie and choking that down, absolutely choking it down. And then the worst thing about it was at the end when I had to unwind the ligament from the liver off the blender blades because they just wouldn't cut through it. And so that was like one of those times, yeah, where you're a little like, oh, this is gross. And then finally I just went, the question that we should all ask after you do something for a while is, do I actually feel better doing this? And with the complaining that I was getting and it was not tasting good. And I just went, is this worth it? Am I actually feeling better from doing this thing that's supposed to be so healthy? And I thought, no. And then I had another thought. I was like, I may actually be feeling worse. So then I just quit. And after about 2 weeks of not doing that, I did start to feel better than I had been. And so I've had one of these days I need to do, maybe we could have you on again and we could go through, like we could sit down when we're not on air and go through all the ways that we poisoned ourselves with vitamin A. I mean, I had an astaxanthin like mega dosing period where it was like, oh, it's so good for testosterone and all this stuff. And, 16 milligrams of astaxanthin a day. It felt great at the start. And then it turned bad over about 8 weeks. So
I'm pretty lucky that I've always been a little wary of supplementation.
Yeah.
And so I could have done myself in even worse, but I still did the spirulina. I still did the chlorella. I still get goji berries.
Oh,
I was out there eating those goji berries like, oh, there's so much vitamin A in here. This is the healthiest thing ever. Those numbers are off the charts. There's some Himalayan, monks out there who are living to 8,000. I'm going to eat as much as possible. Speaking of eating as much as possible, once you've identified a food as a healthy food,
right.
One of my favorite things from the Weston A. Price Foundation conference is that you go through the food lineup to get your food like buffet style. Mm-hmm. And I remember like looking to the people on my left and my right, seeing how much butter they were putting on their bread. And then you're like, I could eat more butter than that, I think. So you're really like trying to, it was like a pissing contest to see who could put, who could put the most butter on their slice of sprouted fermented bread or whatever. So
you need to see the teeth marks.
But, I mean, we all do that. I was doing that with goji berries for sure. And it was like burning my throat. I was like, oh God, it burns. All that bad health is escaping my body as I'm eating these. But,
you're detoxing through your throat.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a period of time where I really didn't drink straight water. I was making, in my office, we had a hot water dispenser. And so all day long, I was basically making Rooibos Red Bush tea.
Okay. Yeah.
And just over time, I finally just went, like, I liked it, but then I'm like, I don't know if I feel so great on this. And I stopped. And after a while, I started feeling better. And then I had a phase where I was doing a detox tea. There's a certain company out there with a detox tea that I was doing. So I just rotate herbal teas. And one of the ingredients, I remember looking at the box and going, I don't think I feel good on this. I look at the box and I see Lycium barbarum, I think, which then is wolfberry, which is goji berry. And then I went, oh my gosh, like I knew about nightshades. And I was like, wow, this, I wouldn't think that a berry would be in a detox tea. And it was, and I stopped that. And so, there's all these things that sneak in on us, or that we think are healthy. And then of course, us being, the type of people that we are, so many health nuts, we decide we're going to overdo it. Like if a little is good, way more and more than everybody else is going to be better. And then we pay the price.
Absolutely. And I remember every time checking my, every now and then you'd enter your eating for a few days on one of the nutrition calculators. And my vitamin A was always like 400%. And I was like, solid, like I get an A for vitamin A, baby. Right. Nobody eats as much vitamin A as I do. I'm the healthiest. I'm going for 500 next time.
Yeah. Some people are like over the pregnant women's allotment. They suggest only 3,000 units a day for pregnant women. Even the normies, like the normal recommendations is 3,000 units for pregnant women. And then they said typical Americans eat 7,000 to 8,000. a day. And so they're talking like standard American diet is 7 to 8,000.
Yeah.
So that means probably by the standard American diet person is almost to the pregnant overdose after breakfast or halfway through lunch.
Yeah, I calculated just for my breakfast, I was probably close to 10,000 IU as an 8-year-old. I mean, it's insane. And now 30 a day, I mean, it's an incredibly small amount. And yeah, we'll see how it turns out. I'm hoping to stay really low like this, like Grant level low for at least 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
I do have some sensitivity to the sun.
Okay.
Right. I have to wear sunglasses outdoors. So does my mom, and she eats vitamin A like it's a competitive sport. So I don't think I'm not fully convinced that it's vitamin A related, but you know, I'll get some night blindness if I'm out in bright sunlight for several hours without sunglasses. So I wear sunglasses, you know, no problem there. But it's kind of on my radar as like, maybe potentially this is a sign. I still haven't done any blood testing, so I'm hoping to get my first blood test this year to see what my retinol levels are. I really want to get my blood level down because I feel like that's a good indicator that your liver is fairly well cleared out. Mm-hmm. And I'm interested to get to that point and see what that's like and what difference that makes. I'm hoping that's when, you know, a second big wave of weight loss kicks in because I've lost 60 pounds or so, and I've got plenty more that I could lose. But it all came off just automatically. You know, I didn't do any dieting for that. And as I've increased my exercise, I've been losing less weight.
So did the weight start coming off when you went really low vitamin A? Did those?
No, it's when I started low vitamin A, coming off, so like I said, I was carnivore for about 40 days before I jumped into a wide variety of foods, low vitamin A diet. And coming off of that, I gained weight pretty quickly, right? I blew up probably to 275-ish, right? And then I continued to gain weight slowly for several years after that. And my weight went all the way up to 314. Whew. That was the heaviest it got. And then I started losing weight. So I didn't do anything different. Still having my once a week, anything goes vitamin A binge. I was doing some exercise, but that's not what was causing the weight loss. I was doing maybe like an hour a week. I was coming off of having really, really severe chronic fatigue, like need to lay down and have a nap because I talked to somebody on the phone for 30 minutes. I was head spinning from reading 2 pages in a book and the room is spinning. Oh, you know, really severe fatigue. So, but I noticed like if I lost weight, for example, I lost some weight when I got COVID the first time and I just didn't gain it back, which is unusual because I've always gained weight back after losing weight, going all the way back to forcing weight off during wrestling or losing weight as a wilderness ranger in the summer. I would always gain back all the weight I lost in the summer plus extra by Halloween. Right. It came back really quickly. So I've always gained weight immediately after losing it in every possible scenario, coming off of diets, cleanses, summer hiking season, anything. But now, you know, if I lose weight, it stays off, which was interesting. I never experienced that before. And then I just went through a long period where I was losing like anywhere from a half a pound to 2 pounds a month, just doing nothing in particular. So anyway, it's been interesting, but I've been in stall site, as Cole Robinson would call it, for 8 or 9 months now. But my fitness is improving rapidly. My fitness is like over 60% improved since January, right? Based on my performance on, you know, various cardio machines. You know, I'm deadlifting and squatting over 300. You I'm able to, I went on a 5-day backpacking trip and I hiked a total of like 30 hours in 7 days. I mean, this is from a dude who had to like take a nap after folding laundry. So we're talking really dramatic improvements in my health over time. And I do attribute a lot of that to the vitamin A, because if I, last time that I got really careless and was just kind of eating whatever and got too carried away, I started to get those dizzy feelings after exertion, like, I feel like I'm going to pass out or something here. And that's kind of what kept me stuck in that state for so long. I was seriously like worried about fainting whenever I exerted myself too much. And I don't know, it's a long story. The fatigue is a whole separate story, but there's no doubt that vitamin A was playing a major role in keeping me from recovering and keeping me from being able to do normal amounts of exertion without being completely floored by it.
Right. Well, there's a very interesting thing going on right now in the social media world. Have you heard about the whole vitamins don't exist thing?
I think you mentioned that when we talked the other day briefly, but I don't know about the vitamins don't exist thing. That seems a little flat earther for me, but yeah, I don't know if I think vitamins are super important as long as you're reaching your daily, as long as you're avoiding deficiency, you're probably good. I think there's a sentiment out there where the more the better when it comes to all things nutrient. And I don't know if that's true. I've been eating a low nutrient diet for 7 years, and I'm hanging in there and making improvements every year. So
right.
I wouldn't say they don't exist, but I certainly don't eat that many of them, not nearly as much as I used to back in my health-oriented, Whole Foods days.
Right. Well, I just thought it was interesting because Cowan is one of the big leaders of the vitamins don't exist movement, and he's also on the board of Weston A. Price.
That's where we talked about it, about Cowan. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just a really interesting thing to be on an organization that pushes like mega dose on fat soluble vitamins, and then you have somebody on the board who says they don't exist. But then I'm pretty sure they'll say, oh no, they exist in foods. And then you go, well, how do you know they exist in foods if they don't exist? And the same science is used to figure them out both synthetically and this. And then we have somebody like yourself who can look at foods and very specifically choose them that are low in vitamin A, and you do well. And if you all of a sudden eat foods that are too high in it, all your symptoms come back, and you have a history of overdosing on natural sources of this. So you're a classic case of, I mean, there's the fortified stuff, right? But I mean, from your health nut days, from all of our health nut days where you were doing the raw milk and I don't know how much liver, you were doing the liver too, and you did the eggs and the dairy and like all that stuff. Food-based vitamin A is a problem. And I don't really care what any armchair expert out on the internet says, because I felt it, you felt it, lots of our people know it too. And then the giant study by Rodal in animals and humans showed the exact same problems from synthetic vitamin A versus the same amount of the same form of vitamin A in foods. So yeah, let me see Johnny Muscle's chat here. He says Stone's experience with getting dizzy from any mental task like reading matches my experience as well. So yeah, it's all very interesting. I don't know. I think we may. Oh, I wanted to say this. If you want to get your tests, Matt, you let me know, and we'll make all that happen. So yeah, that would be really interesting. I don't know if you'd want to go over them on a show, but if you wanted to, I'd offer that. But I'm sure we'll have another chat in the future.
Yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be fun to do that. I tried to get a serum retinol test out of my primary care physician, which I have one for the first time in 25 years. I haven't gone to a doctor really since I was like 20 years old. And so I finally get this primary care physician, and I'm like on the way out of his office, and I'm like, by the way, is there any way I could get, a retinol test on my, in my blood panel? And he was like, no. I try my best to kind of explain to him, well, I'm eating a really low vitamin A diet. No, you're not. No, you're not. Everybody's eating plenty of vitamin A. And I'm like, and finally he's like, what do you eat? And I'm like, I don't know, oats, rice. He's like, there's vitamin A in that. There's vitamin A in that.
Right.
There's vitamin A in everything.
That's
so anyway,
kind of true.
Anyway, it reaffirmed all the reasons why I didn't go to doctors for 25 years. But there is Quest Labs, and I can go order whatever the hell I want, and yeah, I will do that, and have some interesting things hopefully to report later this year. But yeah, I kind of want to blow people's minds like Grant does, where they test his blood and they're like, oh, there must have been some error here. We're gonna have to take your blood again.
Right.
They're like, yeah, there's your 0.01 here on your retinol. Like, what the hell is that?
The alert bells go off. Oh no.
Yeah.
You violated the system. This is not okay.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes, but that'd be fun. I'm really interested in, like I said, I'm really interested in the vitamin A theory of obesity, right? I think it's super interesting that I've always felt like obesity is the body is gaining weight intentionally. Mm-hmm. It's not a mistake. It's not, it is trying actively to gain weight. And I believe that it's not an accident and it's not sabotaging our health on purpose. It's actually trying to do something beneficial for us. I've always believed that. The first time I encountered that idea actually was probably Ogenus. He believed that, excess weight was stored toxins and everything. But I think that stored toxin is probably vitamin A, based on the fact that human body fat was originally called white fat. That was a scientific name given to it, white fat. And now human body fat is bright ass yellow.
Or orange.
Or orange, yeah. Yellowish orange. Just like the egg yolks that I would drive out of my way to spend $10 on. And then I would crack that yolk open and be like, oh, dude, look how orange and red that is. It's almost red. It's almost red. This egg is so much better than the eggs at the store. I mean, I'm probably going to get so healthy off of this. But human body fat is now this god-awful yellowy orange color. And we know that that's from vitamin A. Nobody disputes that. And there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 10,000 IUs of vitamin A in a pound of human body fat. And I believe it makes perfect sense to me that once the liver is full, which I think the liver can store, a healthy liver can store maybe 1 million IUs of vitamin A, which, by the way, is only a year of eating the standard, the 3,000 IUs a day that's recommended. So once that million is tapped out and you've got some in your skin and your other tissues, where does it go, all this vitamin A that you eat? We don't just excrete it. It's not that easy. And it makes perfect sense that the body would start storing fat and manufacturing more fat cells with which to contain that fat, which are two central, features of obesity, is more fat in the fat cell and more of those fat cells. It makes perfect sense that it's being warehoused intentionally on the body. And it makes sense to me too, that you wouldn't really lose it until, there's a safe place to put it again, which would be after the liver is cleared out, which could only happen, after you've been really, really low in vitamin A for a really long time. And that's kind of what Grant and some of the people that have told him that they've lost weight from this, that's what they reported. I didn't lose any weight for a couple of years, then all of a sudden all my weight just went away, and I didn't do anything different. My calories weren't low. Grant's even talked about how, he ate more calories and it didn't make him gain weight. I don't think he's eating as many as I am. And he's reported now that he eats like this really low calorie diet that's, basically less in a day than I have at breakfast. But I'm really interested to see if it pans out, and if you can, if it's able to overcome also the refined carbohydrates in my diet, the sugar in my diet, the this and that. And the fact that, I do eat some restaurants, trying to avoid vitamin A the best that I can. I eat plenty of packaged foods and things that any normal American that's not health obsessed eats. It'd be nice if this delivers, really great results on that front. But yeah, I'm not convinced that the weight that I've lost so far was from vitamin A. And going really low on it for the last 7 or 8 months and not losing weight is not a good sign. But like I said, I'm expecting to lose no weight for a long period of time. And then all of a sudden it just starts coming off pretty quickly and effortlessly. And we'll see if that happens. But it's definitely not going to be because my diet lacks variety. And it's definitely not going to be because I'm unintentionally restricting calories due to the monotony of my diet. Right. So that's kind of my experiment right now. And it'll be really enlightening and really exciting if it pans out in the way that I think it could and that it might. But anyway, it's something that's probably the most fascinating aspect of it for me personally right now, because I already know what vitamin A restriction does for calming my allergies down, calming my asthma down, bringing my energy levels back and allowing me to become physically active and mentally active again. I'm working a lot, I'm concentrating. I feel like my normal self, again, after many, many years of basically just feeling like, well, I guess I'm stuck on the couch here for the rest of my life. And so, yeah, it's been transformative in that regard, but it would be nice to lose the extra weight. And I certainly would get more credibility as I speak about the subject if I wasn't so fluffy, which might, involve a little bit more of a steady return to speaking about health topics on the internet again. We'll see. But that's kind of what I'm focused on right now. And it's interesting.
Well, your experience will be very good for being in the trenches. I actually have an interesting theory. Well, I don't know if you saw the study I put up on the live stream a bit back about how astaxanthin stimulated adipose stem cells. So we have one carotenoid now stimulating the very cells that make more fat cells. So there's that kind of goes in line with what we're saying. And I was thinking about how when you said that, I think you kind of cut down on the vitamin A and then you gain body fat. Was that right at the start? Was that the progress? Did you say when you first really started restricting vitamin A, you kind of gained weight?
Yeah.
Okay. I have a theory that it may be, so when you stop the onslaught of vitamin A to the liver, the liver would love to get rid of it, but it tries to lower its tissue load itself so it can process more stuff. So it may actually redistribute it out to your body fat. So then we have to believe in the wisdom of the body. Why would it do that? Why would that happen? If we believe that fat is a storage tissue for toxic stuff, especially fat soluble toxins. Well, if the liver said, look, I don't mind if we make some more body fat and we put it out there, just get it out of the liver so the liver can start doing its job and clear itself out. And then we bring the vitamin A back in through retinol binding protein and other things like that. And then as the vitamin A levels in the tissues go down and the fat tissues go down, we can then see the liver get even healthier and then empty out, and then not have to keep the fat cells around or full, as we say. Actually, Gretchen said, after 2 years on Love Your Liver, my weight just dropped by 20 pounds without any effort. She said, just dropped. I do feel like it was lowering toxins and I didn't need as much fat to buffer them anymore. So yeah, that's kind of what we're talking about. There seems to be a threshold that some people reach. And when they get below that, magical things start happening. So yeah.
Yeah. And I really feel just, after being through, seeing all the fads, like we're seeing the low fat diet reemerge after the big keto fad of the last few years. And it's so like cyclical, repeating history over and over again. And it's grueling to lose weight through those methods. The weight always comes back the moment you stop doing those diets.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that the only way that we're going to meaningfully solve obesity is having an approach that you can eat. You don't have to restrict any calories. You don't have to restrict any macronutrients. Those things are mandatory. No diet that relies on calorie restriction, time restricted eating, or macronutrient restriction is ultimately healthy or sustainable. or practical. You know, it's most people don't have the discipline to, you know, eat nothing but beef every day. Beef is great. I love it. It's one of my favorite foods, but only that every day, especially when the symptoms of only eating that start catching up. Your sleep goes, dark circles under your eyes. You start getting really angry at everybody about everything. You know, digestive problems. My gallbladder, like I said, still mad at me 7 years later for what I did to it in those 40 days on a carnivore diet. But yeah, I see. Why wasn't Agenus fat? I mean, I think everybody has a different propensity for weight gain, right? Because we know that fat cell count and things like that, you can get that on a 6-month-old baby, right? It's already established, you know, someone's fat proneness from birth. And twin studies are famous too, right? They grow up in different households, you know, 1,000 miles apart, separated at birth. And then they find them in adulthood and they both weigh the same and they both store fat in all the same places, right? So that's interesting as well. Some people are just not that fat prone. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, I see people out here, you know, I'm 12 miles from the border of Colorado, the leanest state in the country. And up in the mountain towns, literally no one is overweight. So obviously, you know, going out and hiking for 8 hours is a really good prophylactic against weight gain, right? Yeah. But what happens to the big question is, if somebody is making no effort whatsoever to gain, you know, to keep from gaining weight, almost everyone gains weight without that effort. You know, the moment, you know, these mountain people who are so lean become sedentary, they gain weight. That's what happened to me. I was living in the mountains. I had the appearance of being super fit. I could bring a picture from the wall of me back then looking like a real stud, but every October I gained all that weight back. You know, as soon as I went back to normal living, you know, that weight came back a lot. I don't think Agenus was doing a ton of exercise and stuff like that, but I mean, the dude was like an actor for a soap opera. I mean, he has some pretty awesome natural genetics, just across the board. But yeah, I mean, it is interesting why some people gain weight and some people don't.
Yeah, I mean, there's when people talk about obesity and like mortality risks, like risk of death, the studies show that like the underweight people die earlier than the obese people. So there's actually these different phenotypes that are expressing themselves. Yeah. And so, you know, what is that? Why? Well, this guy was skinny. Why didn't he get fat? And well, that's just different bodies express themselves differently. And so we just don't. One of the issues with this is everybody wants to know, what symptoms do I have if I have vitamin A toxicity? And it's like, it's not that easy. You just don't have psoriasis or eye problems or asthma or allergies. It's not just, I mean, could we list off all these problems? I mean, how does a person's individual system and their genetics break down if they're toxic in a certain way? And what about the context of all the toxins that they've been exposed to? They have their own mixture of toxins, and how does that express itself, and why does, you know, that? So it's all just like, there is no magic symptom that you can look for. It's a spectrum. And then I tell people, like, if it gets better as we're doing it, then we know it's probably connected to this, that we can be pretty sure of that. But until it goes away, we don't know. Actually, go ahead.
Yeah, with Agenus in particular, the best way to get vitamin A out of the body is to expose yourself to orophycal bacteria. Seriously, I mean, and so this guy's eating rotten meat every day, right? Which is super high in bacteria. And honestly, like, he may have been avoiding obesity just by virtue of the fact that he's dumping out massive amounts of vitamin A out of his liver all the time, because he's constantly exposing himself to all different kinds of parasites, bacteria, et cetera. You know, we know that, you know, getting certain illnesses or exposure to, you know, lots of bacteria and stuff like that is really the only way to get the liver to just like massively dump out a large dose of vitamin A all at one time. And I've said that many times. You know, I feel like somebody living in a different environment that's not full of sterilization, pasteurization, sanitation, vaccination, et cetera, you know, probably is dumping enough vitamin A out of their livers on a regular basis to where they're not going to accumulate it and run into the same problem. So there's probably a reason why he found that high meat to be so therapeutic, because that's probably the exact thing he needed to detoxify all that butter fat that he was getting in his diet, right? Just a theory, but that's something I've thought about for sure.
Interesting. Well, anything else you want to cover today, Matt, or are we ready to wrap this up?
I think I'm pretty good. I mean, that was just the pretty decent expose of what I've been through and what it's doing for me. And yeah, if anybody has any questions, that'd be fun.
Oh yeah, let's go through that. Let's look through so you can look through the chat, see if there's anything you want to address, and I'll look and see if there's anything that I think is good to do. So let's see. Oh, Butch was saying I first heard of Garrett on his interviews with Matt. Yeah, that's so thank you for that, Matt. Let's do this one. Let's do FS. FS says, may I ask for help? I am struggling with obsessing over my health within low vitamin A. I would have loved to apply Matt's eat for heat advice fully, to just let go in my heart as a quote dieter. I'm a 23-year-old female. You want to start with that, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I have a lot of experience dealing with people with eating disorders, right? And everything is like on a certain hierarchy of importance, right? If you're recovering from an eating disorder, then the vitamin A thing is not such a big issue, right? The main thing is that you need to eat enough calories to, recover your fat stores, get your metabolism, your hormones working again, et cetera, et cetera. And so if you come from like disordered eating, and if you're just talking strictly about the mental side of becoming like obsessed with what you're eating and worrying about that and struggling to get enough calories because you're so hyper focused and about it, the key is for me, I mean, I don't struggle to get enough calories at all, right? Because I've decided to forego being perfect, just focus on vitamin A, and then really eat a lot of normal foods. And I eat a lot of variety as well. So there's things that I can eat when I go to restaurants. I know what I can order at Chili's. I know what I can order at Texas Roadhouse. I know what I can order when I go to McDonald's, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I eat liberally of things that I know are definitely not considered health foods, but I know that they're really low in vitamin A, right? Like I'm going to sit down and crush like honey buns or something, right? Or like I had, like I've said in a video I made about this recently, like I ate 3,000 Oreos last year and lost over 20 pounds, right? I'm not super focused on, every aspect of what a healthy diet is composed of. And if you're 23 years old, you have really high metabolic needs. Your metabolism is cranky. You really need to eat a lot of calories. If you grew up in a nice, palatable, fun food environment where you're able to eat a lot of different variety of foods that are all very tasty and calorie dense, if you try to go against that, it's really difficult to get the amount of calories that you need. And I see this like with my wife all the time, who she struggles to eat enough food. If we eat at home all the time and that's all we eat, she just doesn't eat enough and her digestion gets backed up and she starts having a lot of problems. So for her, like really thinking about what she's in the mood to eat, what she's craving, being in tune with that, actually going and fulfilling those cravings, things like that can really help a lot. But, I certainly still believe that everybody should be getting the adequate energy. And adequate energy for most people is more than they assume if they've been a health nut for a long time. And just eating adequate calories is really therapeutic still for, your sleep quality, your stress tolerance, all different kinds of things. So, if you're really struggling on the vitamin A thing, really just put some effort into figuring out a wider variety of foods that you can eat. And don't be afraid if you're really struggling, to venture into, naughtier foods that might make it easier to get your calories in and feel good and also feel free, like you're not super restricted. Last thing I'll say is, for the first 6 years where I was on vitamin A restricted diet and I was eating 1 day a week of kind of whatever I wanted, that was way harder than what I'm doing now, right? I was always I was always thinking about eating those foods. I was wanting those foods. I was always battling. Should I eat that? Well, if I eat it, then I'll have to go, all right, it was only 2 days ago that I had that. I guess I'll have it. Then I'll just be really clean. I had a lot of mental chatter about that. And I found it easier actually to be strict. This is the easiest year I've had. I shed a few tears over like a grilled cheese that I couldn't eat the other night. But I was doing that much more regularly. I felt deprived. I was really pissed that I had to be on this diet for a long, long time when I was on it part-time. Now that I'm really strict with it on it full-time, it's just kind of out of sight, out of mind. So personally for me, I'm having fewer struggles with the diet now that I'm stricter with it. So that's another thing to consider.
Okay, great. FS was adding, may I share? I'm a thin person, an undertype. Should I expect to fill up as I get healthier, as in like gain weight? We have seen this happen in the program as people's livers do get better. One of the things I warn undertypes about, so an undertype may need more added fats at the start than a regular weight person or an overtype, just because like an undertype, an underweight person is not very good at making body fat, which we do need to soak up toxins. And so you may have to actually take some in from outside to grab onto it, and just to get the calories in. And the other thing about undertypes is that, so tending to be underweight is what we mean. But undertypes, when they try to force feed to gain weight, like, so we've had people eating, 4,000 calories a day, 5,000 calories a day, just to gain a pound or two. Like, and they're just eating all day. Remember, everything you put in has to go through your detox process, your liver process. So if you're throwing in like twice as many calories as you normally would just to gain a pound, it's probably not serving your liver in the long term, because you're just giving it more to deal with, and it's not really paying off. So I usually tell people, like, find out what you need to do to keep your weight steady so it's not going down, at least. And then kind of over time, yes, we have seen people start to gain weight. And keep an eye out for our upcoming stuff inside the Love Your Liver program, because that is definitely, I believe, going to help both overtypes and undertypes to normalize their weight faster, because it distinctly helps with detox. So keep an eye out for that. That's coming. Matt, do you have anything you want to say on that?
Well, it just goes to show and speaks to how body weight is so regulated by your body. We would never think to try to directly, control all these other systems in our body that stay balanced, and energy balance, to think that, we have balancing mechanisms for everything in our bodies, except for energy. That's entirely up to you and how many calories you choose to eat and how many calories you choose to burn during exercise. It's pretty far-fetched and it's definitely like really, really, I don't know, not very intelligent thinking about it. There's definitely energy regulation that goes on, and trying to override it is not easy. Mm-hmm. And not always a smart strategy either, like Garrett said.
Well, yeah, it's like the pattern I saw when I was into weight loss. Like there was the dark days long ago where I actually did the HCG diet for people.
Yeah.
And I remember you writing stuff on it, and I was kind of like, anyway, I started to think about what I was doing. I started, and I didn't like the idea of it, but I was doing it because it was a fad, and it was, had to bring in money at the time. So I'm doing it, and I have people who are saying they're doing this 500 calorie diet a day, 500 calories, and they're injecting the HCG. And the first time they do it in a month, a lot of people would lose like 20 pounds in a month, and they love it. And then they got to take some time off of it, and then they would come back and they do it again. and they'd lose. So let's say they lost 20 pounds the first time, they'd lose 10 pounds or 8 pounds the second time. Same diet, same HCG, but they would not lose as much weight. And usually in between, they'd gain the weight back and they'd gain a bit more. So then they'd come back for the third time. This was a distinct pattern. So the first time they'd lose a certain amount of weight, next time they'd lose about 40 to 50% of that. And then the third time they'd do it, they'd lose like 3 pounds, 5 pounds. And that was it. And they were swearing up and down that they're following the diet. And I believe these people. I have no reason, like they're paying me to tell them what to do. And so they did it. And or they're telling me what they're doing, and they are not losing any weight on a 500 calorie diet. So their body absolutely shut things down. Or if you watch the weight loss and toxicity video, they hyper concentrated the toxins in their fat. Every time they'd lose the fat, toxins would go into their blood. Their body would then restore it in the fat. And so their fat cells were becoming more and more concentrated in toxicity each time. And then when they would lose that fat, some of the fat, it would dump even more toxins into their system, which then probably suppressed their thyroid function, suppressed their metabolic rate. And then they just wouldn't lose any weight. And their body was just absolutely on the defense about the whole thing. So that was where I started going. There's something very, very weird about fat loss. And I didn't know what it was at the time, but I just went, I don't want to do this anymore. This is crazy. So
yeah, it's tough. I think the same thing is happening to people using, the Ozempic and stuff like that these days. Round 1 is much better than round 2 is much better than round 3 and so forth.
Yeah. It's just that I think it's that hyper concentrating of fat. And when they start losing weight again, they just dump it into the system and the system reacts to it. It's toxic. So it just shuts things down. So yeah. The dark days,
That's all right, man.
Dark days. I know. I had to learn from it. So we had a question here, Matt, if you want to go on this one first. How might vitamin A toxicity directly or indirectly cause cells to remain stuck in a state of hyperglycolysis and excessive fatty acid oxidation?
I came across something recently. I've been following a lot of like endurance athletes and just kind of like listening to what they have to say about stuff. And I think it's fairly well known that people who are overweight or maybe insulin resistant actually are burning more sugar than fatty acid oxidation. I didn't really follow up and look into that too deeply, but from what I understand, you're more likely to actually, at various exercise levels and heart rate levels to be burning a higher level of sugar in proportion to fat than a trained athlete. And going out and doing a lot of, regular training and getting really fit makes you into a superior fat burner. And it gives you a little bit more metabolic flexibility to burn off many different fuels to fuel your exercise. So I don't have a whole lot to say other than that. Garrett might have something to chime in about that.
No, I with something like that, people get into these mechanisms a lot. And I kind of always, how I got here doing what I do is I kind of try to stay above losing myself in the rabbit hole of mechanisms. Because the people I see getting into the mechanisms, they tend to accept every single study as legit. And so then they get opposing viewpoints on everything and they can't figure out what to do because they're stuck because this increases this, but this also decreases this. And it's just some of the mechanism stuff. Cell studies, when they're down at the cell study level, I really just kind of disregard it. So I got to see it at like the human level is really the in vivo level is where I got to see it. So that's not a topic that I've tended to go down because I look at everything that people have supposedly figured out on these mechanisms, and then yet it's not working. Because the crazy thing is you give toxins in cell studies and the cells often respond positively. We know this about retinoic acid, right? That's how they get all these theories of retinoic acid is going to help all these conditions because they give it in cell studies and they see good things happen. And then everybody knows you give retinoic acid to humans and it just ruins things. It just destroys people. So that's kind of the duration paradox that I talk about over and over. And that's why I don't tend to go into the mechanisms. It just doesn't move things forward is my opinion on that. So no, I don't have really anything to add on that. Okay, so let's see if anything else you want to hit on, Matt, down in the chat.
Yeah, Johnny did follow up and say that, you know, he feels like that excessive fatty acid oxidation is kind of a hallmark for all of the chronic diseases. You know, in the research that I've done in the past and like exploring Ray Peat and stuff like that, you know, yes, like, you know, you want to be a glucose oxidizer, and that's more of something associated with having a higher metabolism, being younger, and being, you know, more associated with youth. So yeah, I was surprised when I heard that endurance athlete make that claim that people who are overweight and out of shape and have insulin resistance tend to be more sugar burners and less fatty acids. So maybe that's just completely false. But yeah, I don't have anything else to really say about that. But obviously, there's some kind of connection that's important. But I don't know anything about it.
Okay. Okay. Austin added, my sun sensitivity went away. I'm about 9 months in. Previously 20 minutes in the sun and I was completely lobstered. Now 20 minutes gets me a nice tan, but not burnt. This is a very common thing to see less sun sensitivity, whether it's the skin or the eyes. Yeah.
I love this. I was hoping this would come up. My skin's ability to withstand the sun and also not get very tan is hilarious.
Yeah.
Right. I can go out with people. Like I went backpacking with a 21-year-old. Right. And he has very dark skin. He's been out spending a lot of time in the outdoors this summer. I haven't really. I've gone on some hikes and things like that. And I got just a little bit of sunburn, like right here on the back of my neck, but I haven't, I mean, I don't use sunscreen at all, but we were out all day at altitude, not a cloud in the sky. And I didn't even really think about, you know, worrying about my, you know, sunburn or anything like that. And we're like above the tree line, like high elevation, crazy. And what's nuts too is I used to get so much more tan when I was out in the sun. And even when I was tan, I could still burn easily. I had a really weird experience that I searched for the answers for, and I didn't find them at the time. One time I was sick, and I chose to just fast on orange juice for several days. And then after drinking like 3 or 4 gallons of orange juice in 3 days, I went out in the sun. I was living in Florida at the time, and I was like going to the beach, laying out for hours, and I was doing okay. And I got sunburned like in 20 minutes, even though I had this super dark tan. And even though I was like really, really well conditioned to being out in the sun. So that was really an interesting experience that may have had something to do with, you know, piling a bunch of vitamin A directly into my skin by doing that. I don't know. But yeah, it's been really fascinating to see just how completely and totally, I'm not completely immune to sunburn. I can still go out, take my shirt off. If my skin hasn't seen the sun like in 6 months, like I can still burn, but yeah, I would say at least 5 times the sun tolerance that I used to have. And my skin is just not that tan. Like I can go out in the sun for 5 hours with this bald head, nothing. And it's not even that tan, as you can see.
Right.
So it's pretty wild what a difference that's made. One time I Googled, you know, how to get more tan or something like that. I saw that products geared towards that was called Carrot something, and it had a carrot on it, and it was full of carotene to help your skin get more tan when you're exposed to the sun. Of course, we always know, you know, when I took Retin A for acne back in my teen.
I was going to ask you if you ever did any of those. So,
yeah, first thing they say is, you know, be careful with your sun out in the skin. I'm losing my ability to speak here. Be careful with your skin out in the sun. You're going to be really sensitive to the sun. I'm falling apart here, Dr. G. But yeah, I mean, we all know that just Retin A causes you to have very high sensitivity to the sun. And to find out that they're, you know, carotenes are the magic ingredient to make you more tan. I also saw other sites that were giving out information saying to eat a bunch more carotene rich foods, that they would make you darker upon exposure to the sun. And that was my experience. Like I said, when I was living in Hawaii and I was juicing and working at these health food stores and pounding carrot juice and spirulina and all this stuff, my skin was so dark. But I couldn't get that dark, even half that dark, even if I tried now. And it's hard to even get sunburned, even if I try.
Yeah. Well, the theory of mine is like, so the areas that we cover, right? Like, so like, let's say your t-shirt area that normally don't get exposed to the sun. And then, so sun actually oxidizes carotenoids and retinoids in your skin, breaks them down, sends them to your liver to be hopefully gotten rid of. Whereas if the parts of your skin that aren't exposed, well, they're not tan either, but you're not breaking down the vitamin A in the skin in that location. So even if somebody was relatively low in vitamin A, those areas that they normally protect from the sun, whether intentionally or not, are going to be the areas that would tend to get the most burnt because they just don't get rid of that stuff out of the skin as much as possible. It does seem like carotenoids, like there was, I posted about the woman who put carrot oil on her skin and then laid out in the sun and ended up getting 3rd-degree burns from sunbathing. Carrot.
I believe that.
So you know, that's just showing that these things are like, they will crispy fry you. And in terms of the tan thing, this is as tan as I have ever been in my life. I used to avoid the sun. I mean, people know in my old videos, I'm pale. I'm naturally pale. I'm white. So this is like, I actually have the sock tan line, you know, from being out in the Arizona sun for, you know, 45 minutes to an hour a day. And I used to know that like 20 minutes I was burning on my shoulders or on my neck. Like it was just a given. Almost any time of day that I went out in the sun, except for early morning or late afternoon, like I had 20 minutes out in the sun before I either had to put on sunscreen or I would put on clothes. I would put on the goofy sun hat and the swim shirt and all that stuff.
Safari hat kind of thing.
Yeah. So I was, and then I go out now and I'm kind of amazed because I got so used to burning that it's still kind of in the back of my mind. I go, am I going to burn? And then I don't. But that's weird. That neck thing, that must be when the shirt, because I've gotten that before too. It must be where the tan line is, and maybe sometimes the shirt is a little higher or lower. And so you have that little
especially on a backpacking trip, you know, that shirt gets 2 or 3 days in, that neckline starts stretching out. That was definitely a big factor of what was going on there. Another thing I wanted to bring up that was super weird is earwax.
Yeah. I
mean, I hadn't cleaned my ears out for 2 months with a Q-tip. And I just kind of felt like doing it the other day. And I did this. I mean, the thing comes out white as snow. I mean, nothing on the thing, which is crazy. I mean, because like I had an ex-girlfriend who was like really into earwax, right? And she would clean out my ears all the time. And every now and then she'd get one of those like really dark brown chunks. She'd be like, ooh, you know? And so that was like a thing, you know, like she loved like digging around and finding little treasures in my ears. And I got nothing in there, nothing. And that's only happened now that I've been really strict. I was still using Q-tips and I noticed my earwax was a little less, you know, maybe I was cleaning my ears a couple times a month and there was a little bit of earwax on there, but nothing like what there used to be. But now, I mean, there's literally nothing in there. It's pretty crazy. Yeah.
I use my earwax. I've talked about my earwax before and it's just, I was like a Q-tip addict. Like I would use them all the time. And I didn't want to do the hydrogen peroxide or the carbamide peroxide. You can use that as an ear cleaner. That just wasn't as satisfying, right? As sticking in there. I love when people say, don't stick a Q-tip in your ear. And I'm like, that's the biggest like legal CYA thing. That's like, it's the only thing designed to stick in your ear. Like, I'm not recommending it. Don't go stick Q-tips in your ear. But all I'm saying is it's kind of shaped that way for a reason, you know? But yeah, the whole thing, the earwax thing, that's a funny thing because there's always the girlfriends who love popping zits, right?
Yeah. That's my daughter now. I mean, she's always on me. If she's any sign of any kind of bump
Well,
anywhere.
is that getting better for you? Is that going away as you've been on the low vitamin A longer?
I haven't had a lot of acne related stuff for a long time.
Yeah.
But one thing I've noticed is that when I eat out at restaurants and eat a lot of vegetable oil, it's got to be the vegetable oil because it can't be the vitamin A. I would know it if I was getting into vitamin A. And that's one thing I don't really eat too much of at the house.
It's that soy oil.
I get cysts like on the back of my neck and in my inner thighs and stuff. It's super sexy. But yeah, it's bizarre and they last for a while. It takes a long time for them to go away. So that's another thing that keeps me from going too far off the deep end with my eating is I go out and eat French fries and stuff like that. And I do pay a price for it, even though that's not vitamin A related.
Right. Okay. Well, let me see what else we got. Let's see. Thanks for doing the earwax thing. I know Joe was mentioning doing that. Let's see. Uzman asks, is there any truth to, quote, essential fats? Is that a real thing or is it just a scam to sell toxic fish oil? If it is the real thing, what could one consume? Are flax seeds / oils a good option? Why don't you do that one first, Matt, and I'll come in after you.
Yeah, I was asked, I was chatting about this with ChatGPT the other day. We were talking about ray peat and meat acid, and is there really essential fatty acids, and having this academic argument about it all. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of a purely academic question because it would be virtually impossible to not get a sufficient amount of these essential fatty acids. We need a very, very small amount of them to avoid deficiency. And so everybody gets that unless they're like really making it a point to eat only, rice and Skittles and egg whites or something. I mean,
totally fat-free
really and everything. Yeah. As far as supplementing with omega-3, I mean, I've always taken the stance that, we should be reducing our omega-6 consumption, not increasing our omega-3 consumption. And so, I mean, I did try some fish oil and flax for the first time in a long time earlier this year, hoping it would help with the cysts that I seem to be getting when I'm going too far off the deep end with my vegetable oils from restaurant food and stuff like that. And it seemed to help a little bit, but it still couldn't overcome a big dose of vegetable oil. So yeah, I'm still on the olive oil, macadamia nut oil. Those are the two household oils that I use for everything. And Oreos was kind of the one kind of go-to, and they use tropical oils in that. It's not full of canola and corn and all that kind of stuff. So don't laugh at me about Oreos, Garrett. Come on, man.
I'm not gonna say I don't like them. I like Oreos. I get the Trader Joe's, the JoJo's. I like those. I get those once in a while. We get them like the holidays kind of time. I'm not gonna say I don't like them.
Okay.
It's
I feel better. I always feel better when I have a little something sweet with every meal, and it's no dairy, no vitamin A, and it doesn't use any vegetable oils. It's like palm and all that. And so that just ended up becoming my go-to. And so, yeah, I have a few Oreos usually after I eat other food. I've been making some more homemade stuff. I got some oatmeal raisin cookies here. I'm not wild about them. I can't say that it's helping me a ton. The Oreos actually seem to perform pretty well as a go-to sweet treat. But anyway.
No, I think it's great having you here talking about kind of doing like, a more standard American diet version of a very low vitamin A diet and hearing your experiences with it. I think it's great. Sorry, go ahead.
I see a question about me sauteing in butter anymore. I consume no butter at all. And so I was doing butter thinking, it's got this vitamin A transport molecules in it or whatever. Maybe it's okay. And no, I was getting rashes like on my legs and itchy ears. And I was not having a good time. And I avoid butter and butter fat, completely 100% all the time. I
do. So about the essential fats thing, we don't use them in the program. we have had people do, okay, so it was on a USMLE exam. I need to find this paper, but there was a research study done on mice, I believe, and they fed them a completely fat-free diet. However they made that, I don't know, but they fed them a completely fat-free diet, and they started getting the brittle hair and the dry skin and all this stuff that went along with it. And then all they had to do was start feeding them plant foods again that had the oils, the little teeny bit of oils that was in the plant foods, and all the essential fatty acid deficiency went away just from that. Now, we've had people on the program who, because of other sensitivities that they had, where they were down to like chicken breast and rice all day, every day.
Yeah.
And because they couldn't even tolerate red meat because they were so sensitive to zinc. And so they were doing that. And then they started getting some dry skin and stuff like that. And I just said, okay, so add like a tablespoon of whichever oil works for you. Just add a tablespoon a day. That should take care of it. And it did. So we don't need a huge amount of fats to avoid this so-called essential fatty acid deficiency. We just need enough fat to run the machine.
Yeah, it's literally like a couple grams a day. Johnny, I wanted to clarify too, with the eating something sweet with my meals. I'm drinking liquid sugar all the time. So I'm consuming massive amounts of fructose from, Sprite, apple juice, grape juice, root beer, high C, Kool-Aid, sports drinks. We're talking like at least 2 quarts a day. So I could forego the dessert type, the classic dessert type thing, but it just doesn't hit the same for some reason. So I don't know. It's something about it that just seems to keep my blood sugar stable and keeps it stable for longer than just relying on the liquid sugar for my sugar. I've tried leaner stuff as well, like Jell-O. That didn't treat me very well. I've tried fruit. Nope. Something that's calorie dense, has some fat in it. That seems to do the trick. So that's kind of how I ended up gravitating to that, and just kind of like religiously having a few cookies with my meals. And yeah, it's cool. I don't have any kind of cravings for it. I actually don't want to eat Oreos. I'm sick of Oreos and pretty much all sweets. So it's not a cravings issue. It's just, I feel so much better. Sugar has always treated me really well, just as a source of calories compared to starch and fat and protein. So, yeah, I'm getting plenty of fructose. Don't worry.
Okay. Anything else you saw that you want to go over? We've covered.
No, just happy to see everybody. Steph and Heather in there. Heather and I chat frequently. She's a great lady. So. Oh,
cool. Great. Well, then I guess, Matt, do you have I know, well, why don't you tell us about what you're doing now for your career or your business?
Okay. Yeah, that'd be fun. So I run 180DegreeHealth.com, and my wife started originally, so she's like my official boss. But other than that, I'm pretty much CEO of 180DegreeHealth.com, and it's the largest book cover design company in North America now. We've got 45 people on the team that I oversee. It's pretty insane, and it's been a lot of fun. I'm pretty behind the scenes. I think my magic is I've been able to build a really good team, and I found really good ways to motivate them, to keep them very happy, to make them feel very appreciated. And the result has been they never quit. They work really hard. They're happy. They make customers happy with their great work ethic and good attitude. And it's been just a breeze, and we're growing like a weed. Like we grew 40-something% last year, over 50% this year so far. And yeah, it's turning into real success. So there's a slight chance I might not always be poor for my whole life, but I'm still in debt. My cash net worth is still below zero, but it's starting to look pretty good. So, next time I'll probably have a bunch of gold jewelry on, 10-pound watch. That's my style, is is definitely to bling out as much as possible. Start looking like Mr. T, you know, in my jewelry choices. But no, anyway, it's been really fun and really rewarding, and there's a lot of value in being a team leader and being the one that's kind of this in charge of being the spiritual leader that keeps everybody motivated and makes them feel loved and appreciated. And you know, I've got a vision for them and for their success, and I'm really good about rewarding them when they perform well. And, you know, I could give, you know, a class on how to build, I pity the fool too there. Yeah, I could teach a class on how to build a really great productive team and keep them really happy. And it's fun having a bunch of happy people that work for you, and it's a really great mutually beneficial relationship. And it's been a great lesson, and I'm so incredibly thankful for it. So I miss the 180 degree health days for sure. But this has been a new life experience that I wouldn't trade for anything. And yeah, I'm helping my daughter. She has a similar business doing children's book illustration. And she's just turned 20 yesterday, and she's already got more money than I've ever had in my life. And so I'm doing really great things for her financial future and teaching her the ways of being a good, effective team leader herself. And I mean, it's just been a great experience. So I miss being, you know, hanging out, chatting with the 180D people all the time, and having a tribe out there. I do kind of hope to someday have that again, because I did really enjoy that. It was one of the greatest, most fulfilling times of my life from like a mental, psychological level. Like I really, really loved it. But yeah, that's been my substitute for now. And I've learned a lot of valuable lessons, and it's actually really successful now. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, if and when I have my book come out, I'll have to make sure to have you do the cover. That'll be awesome.
Yeah.
So,
free of charge. Don't worry.
Well, that's really great. Well, thank you very much for coming on, Matt. It was a pleasure to have you. I'm really glad we reconnected. Recently, I was actually calling Matt to ask him about his RBTI stuff that we kind of talked about in the last calcium episode. And it turned into all of this. And he said he'd love to come on. I asked him if he'd like to come on the show, and he said yes. And I was really excited for this. So, and he made it happen. We made it happen within a day or two of me calling him and saying, could you do this week? And he said, yeah. So it was great.
Yeah. Yesterday was the birthday. That's why I couldn't do it yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
It's the 1 day postponement. Sorry about that.
Yeah. No, Josh, no problem. I was happy to do it. So yeah, so we'll just wrap it up. You guys, if you want to find me on the internet, nutritiondetective.com. There you can find the consultation links, the Love Your Liver program links, the Do It Yourself program, and then the supplement store if you guys choose to get any of our extra clean products that seem to be unable to be made by other people without all the crap in them. So yeah. Anyway, Matt, I would love to talk to you again if you get those labs, or even help you get the labs. If you want to get a hair test or whatever, just let me know. And then we'll just wrap it up here. We will see you all next week, unless there's anything last you want to add, Matt.
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Dr. G, for taking this and running with it. I didn't have the health or stamina or anything that was required to be what you're being for this community. And, you know, I've lurked and watched and seen how you've evolved, and I'm really grateful that you're here consistently every week, 209 episodes now of doing this. That's a big sacrifice, and it's awesome. You've been really consistent with this, that it still has a life out there. Cause I do think it's important. It's been a huge game changer for me and changed my life completely. I know it has for Grant, and I'm glad that you've held this community together, and I really hope that it continues to grow and flourish and reach more people. And thanks to everybody for joining us today.
Awesome. That's great. Well, thank you so much, Matt. And we'll wrap it up here for today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Leave a comment, a like, all that, subscribe to the channel, all that stuff. And then we will see you. Well, Matt has a Matt has a YouTube channel too. He
I'm
says
pretty half-assed with it, but
yeah.
We'll see.
Well, do you want, it was a Matt Stone 8111. Was that it?
Yeah, it's something I don't even know what it is, but yeah, obviously if you just Google Matt Stone on YouTube, you'll probably find a bunch of South Park related stuff, which is much better than my content. So we'll just watch South Park, basically.
Right. We'll get a different version of Matt
Joe
Stone.
left it down there. He's got it.
Yeah, Joe got it. Yeah, I was on Twitter. I was trying to find your Twitter and you didn't have one. And then I saw that I had posted a YouTube comment from you talking about the vitamin A thing. And then I saw the Matt Stone 8111. And I was like, I didn't know if that was Twitter or YouTube. And then I figured out that it was YouTube later. So, okay, well, we'll just wrap it up here. Again, thank you, Matt, for joining us. And Steph was saying you may not have money, but you've made a huge difference in many lives. And that is true, especially from introducing me to this so that I could help other people with it. So it's both directly and indirectly, Matt, you've been helping people. So thank you for doing all you do. And we'll just wrap it up here. And so again, we'll see you all next week for 210. Bye now.